All right, ready to get started. Let's rock and roll. It is the 25th, right? Let's double check that. 25th of June already. All right, welcome to the Q&A. This is our weekly Q&A, an opportunity for you to ask questions about Decker, what we have available, what's going on, and also a chance for us to keep you in the loop of, here are updates and what can we tell you and all that good stuff. So welcome to today's Q&A. If you have a question, do me a favor and in the chat, put your zip code or your city and state, either one. Put that in the chat. Let me know how much experience you have. If you're looking for a position, obviously in a specific area, that'll help me kind of narrow down, okay, this is what we have and this is what we can offer you. Let's make sure that it's aligned with what you're expecting or what you're wanting, right? We do have a handful of opportunities available, refrigerated and flatbed. We have some over-the-road refrigerated options. We have some more regional refrigerated options. We have over-the-road flatbed, and then, of course, a home weekly flatbed as well. So we'll dive into those specifics, the rate of pay and what you can expect, what orientation looks like, what home time looks like, the equipment that we have, any benefits. Am I missing anything? What other questions might you have? Let me know, put it in the chat. We'll address those as they come about today. I do want to remind you that for those of you who are current here with Decker, it is our payout week for our monthly bonuses, actually. We have both the scorecard and our safety bonus that are paid out this week. If you haven't, you need to make sure that you're constantly, or monthly at least, speaking with your driver manager and going over your scorecard and your driver scores and everything. That way we can make sure that you're getting the best possible score. If you're not getting it, then we're going to work together to get you to it. Okay, so what's the best score? Well, again, we have two different bonuses. So the first score, the scorecard, the best score is 1,000 points. That's perfect. You want that perfect score, you get 1,000 points. For the safety bonus, a perfect score is a perfect score is 0, which pays out an extra penny on all the miles that you've completed for the month. The extra score for the scorecard, that 1,000 points, that's a full 4 cents a mile on all the miles that you completed for the month. So combined, if you get both the scorecard and the safety bonus for the month, that's 5 cents. An extra 5 cents a mile. It definitely adds up, right? For some of you, it's an extra $400 or $500. For others, it could be, around 140. I think actually the average and I know it'll take me just a second, but yeah, the average for a company driver just on the scorecard alone was 160. So 160 was the average payout for a company side, 81 for the safety bonus for the score, or for the company side. There we go. So combined, yes, a little over 200, 220 about for the average score, 220, 240, depending. Yeah, I just realized my math was good, 240. But then we also have our owner-operator side. Owner-operator, they average about 220, a little over 220 just on the scorecard alone for bonuses. And the payout for the safety bonus was right around 100. So they're a little bit higher, about 320 for the safety bonus and scorecard combined. So I do want you to know that with the scorecard for our owner-operators and lease purchase, it doesn't go off of, it doesn't include the fuel compliance or the idle time. So they get an extra 3 cents a mile for the scorecard instead of 4 cents a mile. There we go, 4 cents a mile as a company driver, because their fuel compliance and their idle time isn't a factor, isn't a criteria in that scorecard. That's fine, because it's obviously something that is a reflection in their actual revenue that they see on a week-to-week basis. So, they're aware of it. They know what their fuel compliance is. They know what their routing and their idle time are, and they have to, because they're running a business, and in order to stay on top and stay in the black, they've got to know those numbers. As a company driver, we do factor in your fuel compliance, we do factor in your idle time, along with the other 5 criteria, which would be miles, preventable accidents, CSA violations, on-time delivery, claims. Those are all criteria in the scorecard for all of our drivers. So, and with the safety bonus, the safety is based off of our lytics system, which is in our truck. It's it's a pretty intense system. It has, it gauges following distance, lane departure, speed gauge. It has both the inward and outward facing event recorders. The inward one turns off after the truck is off. As soon as you turn the truck off, that turns off. And then with the outward one, that one stays on for 4 hours, actually. With the payout, like I said, about $80, a little over $80 for the company side on average. Altogether, it was over $19,463.44 paid out on the safety bonus alone for the month of May on the company side. On the owner-operator side, we had 27 owner-operators earn that bonus on an average of $97.73, and we paid out $2,638.60. So shout out to all of those who earned it. Job well done. Yes, Katie says thanks for putting safety first, and congrats to all of those who earned it. Now the scorecard payout, we paid about $41,000 in the scorecard bonus alone. Over $9,800 went to the owner-operator side, which was about 44 owner-operators that earned that scorecard. And we had 190 company drivers earn it, and that was a little over 30,400. There you go. We'll clarify that one. That paid out on the scorecard. So altogether, between the 2 bonuses for the month of May, the total payout was $62,384.39. Not too shabby, you guys. I definitely want to give a shout out to all of those who earned a perfect scorecard. Robert Anderson, Tyler Ash, Lydia Dietrich, Abdullah Dejoe, Lauren Durham, Abdullah Dejoe Sr., Lauren Durham, Christopher Eppins, Jean Jablanc, Irvin Kilberg, Darren Ladley, Leonard Matthew III, Dominic McClure, Dennis McCubbin, Thomas Melton, Todd Overson, Thomas Price, David Rogers, Diana Rosales, Rolando Rosales, Singin J, Jason Sneed, Adam Stark, and Timothy Tyree on the company side. Perfect score. That's 1,000 points, you guys. Anything over $8.25 is going to pay out at least 1 cent on the bonus. But the 1,000 points pays out that 4 for the company side. Pays out 3 for the owner-operator. So again, owner-operator lease purchase, we had perfect scores. Jamie Bean, Ronnie Burns, Levi Kuchar, Louis Diaz Louis Diaz Jr., Charles Gann, Michael Grugitsky, Damian Guthrie, Cody Hager, Ryan Lady, Michael Mathis, Matthew Neerling, Timothy Olden, Coronary Purnell, Mugletto Pierre, Wiener Velson Sr., and Victor Walker, all perfect scores. Not too shabby. Congrats, you guys. And we had a ton of safety with the perfect scores. I mean, a ton. And if you get a chance to watch the Facebook Live, we give a shout out to each and every one of them, because that's huge. Safety. Speaking of safety, I think now is as good a time as ever to remind you to make sure you're doing your pre-trip as well as your quarterly safety training. A quarterly safety training is going to go through this. Actually, it starts on the 1st, which is next Monday. So you'll be getting a notice on that quarterly safety training that it needs to get done. Anyone who completes it within the first 24 hours, your name is entered to win gift cards. So we'll have a drawing for think 10 gift cards for all of those who completed the training on the 1st. But the training itself, it talks a lot about hot weather. You guys are going through it. If you're in the Midwest, and if you're in the East, even if you're in the far West, you guys are seeing hot weather. Some of you are seeing floods. Just watching some of the news and getting some articles sent over to me here this morning, getting more and more updates on some of the flood and recovery, I should say, especially in Iowa, Illinois. So please be safe, you guys. I noticed that, or not noticed, but with the safety training, it's talking about driving in the summer. It's talking about being prepared for hot weather. There's additional information like cyber attack knowledge, knowing how to be aware and to identify cyber attacks. But yeah, all of that is in this quarter's safety training. So please make sure that you get that completed as soon as possible. You'll have an email sent out to you for the LUMA quarterly safety training come the 1st of July. Yeah. So also hypothermia, keeping you cool, allowing your body to sweat and to naturally cool itself down. A few reminders with that is making sure that you guys are getting plenty to drink. It is hot. It is hot, and there's a lot of humidity in some of those areas, especially with the flooding. So please make sure that you are getting plenty of fluids. When you've got the humidity as a factor as well, obviously sometimes that makes it a little bit harder to cool down. So lots of fluids, not just for yourself. If you have a rider, if you've got a dog on, we do have a pet policy, so we do allow dogs up to 80 pounds. But make sure that you all are getting the water that you need, right? And when it comes to driving this time of year, give yourself extra distance, give yourself extra time. Construction. I mean, I can't say construction enough because I live in Montana. We have a terminal in Missoula. So I live in Montana, and it is either snowing or construction, sometimes both. And then, towards the end of July, we start to see a lot of smoke. So please be prepared. Give yourself extra distance. Once it starts getting smoky, the visibility is obviously going to be affected. Hopefully not so bad that you wouldn't see the vehicles in front of you, but you need to be prepared for that kind of stuff. Not only the construction and extra vehicles, thinking of RVs, lots of trucks, pickup trucks and trailers and boats, hauling all over. Everybody's going camping. You get a couple nice months out of the year, or some kids are off for vacation. A lot of people are taking advantage of that. So that's going to slow you down as well. Give extra distance and some courtesy. These guys are not necessarily professional drivers. You are professional drivers, obviously. They're not. Some of them don't have the certifications that you do. They don't have the experience that you do. And yet they're driving sometimes multiple trailers. Some of them are with the RVs and hauling something, and they don't have the certification. So you got to be well aware of it. Play caution to the wind there, and protect yourselves. Plus, a lot of kids are going through driver's ed, and with driver's ed, being in the summer, they're going to slow down. They're going to be going at a different pace than you. They definitely don't have the knowledge base that you do as a professional driver. So they're learning to go on and off ramps. They're learning how to get around town or in the city limits, and just maneuver in traffic. So please be well aware of them as well. Yeah, and let's not make it harder on them. Let's just be aware and courteous of it. If you guys have questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them, but I do want to give you a heads up. Dean says, those same storms that started in Minnesota last Thursday when I was there followed me to Indiana today. Oh, no. Yes, seeing a lot of weather across the U.S. Flooding, obviously, in the Iowa area. Storms. in Minnesota, South Dakota. South Dakota was seeing quite a bit as well. I was looking over some of the, I think they said 15 inches in 2 days in some of the locations for rain and flooding, I guess. And then in South Dakota, there was quite a bit of damage there. Arizona had some around the Tucson area. There's floodwaters there as well. Minnesota, southeastern Dakotas. Yeah, I know you're seeing it. You guys just please obviously prepare. If you have the opportunity to be rerouted and go a different direction in order to avoid it, reach out to your driver manager. Let's make sure that that communication is going, right? Asim, how are you? We're doing well, thank you. But yeah, Dean, way to be prepared for that. That's giving yourself that extra time, and it can get nasty, so we want to be well prepared. I know, speaking of those storms last week and all the flooding, Decker has stepped up, and we're able to help out some of the different, some of the surrounding communities as well. There are some warehouses and grocery stores that Decker has gone ahead and provided trailers to help with some of that storage, because people are being evacuated in a lot of those areas, and yet there's still a lot of food, and not only food, but just goods in general that still need to be have some longevity. You know, I mean, like, these individuals still need access to it. So really proud to be part of a community, as well as a company that will step up and help in times like these. So very cool. Yeah, I think 25 counties in Iowa alone were put into disaster declarations as of Sunday night, Monday morning. I'm not even sure, but there were a lot of rescues, a lot of people helping other people out because of it. Everybody was on their roofs. But yes, Fort Dodge, there's with the levee and stuff, there was some damage. So yeah, keep your eye on the news. Make sure that you're staying up to date so that you can plan. And then, of course, get out as fast as you can in some of those areas. I'm trying to think. There was, what I see on the news today, because it's not just flooding, it's heat in some areas. Philadelphia had, I think it was a 150-year record that it was breaking with the heat index. But yeah, it's hot in a lot of areas. Yesterday during our Facebook Live, there were several people talking about how hot it was. The joke was that here in Montana, it snowed last week, 5 inches. So yeah, it's quite a bit. Asim says he's on the 5th of July. That's fantastic. You're making your way. That's good to know. Fantastic. I know you've been working at that for a while. So speaking of, he's talking about getting through training, going through school. We do have some training opportunities here at Decker. If we do require 6 months of driving experience, but if you don't have that and are a recent graduate of a approved school, then yes, we will train you. It does matter what division you're going into. With our over-the-road flatbed division, we require 6 months of flatbed experience or a year of tractor trailer. So that's going to be a little bit different than some of our other divisions. So where you live will have some bearing on what we have available in your area as far as training. So our refrigerated divisions, as well as our Midwest flatbed division, we do train directly out of school there. So you're not required to get those 6 months of experience if you're a recent graduate. But keep in mind, we are obviously limited on the number of trainers that we have. And so that's going to have some bearing on if you'd be able to start right away, or if you're going to have to wait a couple of weeks. Again, their availability will determine that. Speaking to a recruiter, that'll make a big difference. But if you want to speak to a recruiter and get additional details, obviously more specific to your situation, this number right here, oh, there it goes, 877-433-2633. 2537. That's the recruiting number. That'll get you a hold of our recruiting department. Visit with them, see what we can do. You can also apply online at drivedecker.com. So if you have at least 6 months of flatbed experience or 6 months of experience in general, let us know where you live. Let's get you those details on what's available, but you can apply at drivedecker.com. Let's talk about some of those areas that we do hire out of. Obviously, I can't just say, oh, we hire here, and it would be all encompassing. It doesn't, or it isn't. But I can give you a couple of ideas. We run, in our refrigerated divisions, we have basically one that runs coast to coast. That one's a lot of West, a lot of Midwest. It's coast to coast. We don't do a whole lot of New England states, no matter what division you're in. Sometimes we'll have a load into Southwestern, I didn't think about that, Southwestern New York, but most of our runs are up and down the Midwest, out towards the West. Washington, up and down I-5, Seattle, Salt Lake City, Missoula, Montana. We have runs in Colorado, in Wyoming, Nevada. So those are kind of give you an idea of our running lanes. As far as availability for hiring, Portland, Oregon is within our hiring area, up towards Seattle. So Tacoma, we've got the Twin Cities, we've got Spokane over to Missoula on 90. So we do have some availability up in the Northwest. Denver, Colorado to Cheyenne, we're hiring out of that area for our over-the-road refrigerated. By the way, over-the-road refrigerated would put you home every 2 to 3 weeks. You'd be home for about 4 days. 2-3 weeks out, 4 days home. And you'd be bringing the truck home with you on your home time. The only exception to that is if you live in Montana. And we'll take care of the maintenance and stuff. Because some of those loads, some of you live quite a bit out of route in Montana, so it's a little bit easier to take care of all that stuff while you're on home time. As far as the Midwest, we have our more regional refrigerated. That is going to run anywhere really up and down the Midwest, anything really east of Denver. So include Denver, everything east of there is going to be in our more regional position. Now that for refrigerated would get you home about every 11 days for 3 days home, 11 days out. Bring the truck home with you on your home time. And yes, we do Georgia, we'll do Atlanta, Georgia, Texas to the Carolinas, up and down the Midwest, on over to Pennsylvania. But again, it's all designated areas based off of our freight and the available lanes. So please reach out to the recruiting department to get specifics, so we're not making assumptions on whether or not you're in that hiring area. So I don't want to waste your time. I want to make sure that it's a good fit ahead of time for you. As far as flatbed, if you live in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, those are great areas for us for the flatbed division. Missouri, especially around the St. Louis area. Texas to the Carolinas, we hire for flatbed there. That's over-the-road flatbed, so it'll get you home about every other weekend. Where our Midwest flatbed is usually home. We have the option of over the road if you live in the Midwest, but we also have the option of home weekly. Poplar says, do you hire out of Salem, Oregon? I think right now Salem is a little bit too far south, but give me 1 second. I am just going to double check here. I think, and by the way, you guys, our hiring area changes obviously based off of availability. If we have additional freight in the area, then we would increase our hiring. Salem currently is in our hiring area, it says. So I'm showing that it currently is in the hiring area, which would get you home about every 2 to 3 weeks. So 2 to 3 weeks, and then home for 4 days. So yes. Yeah, I'm glad you asked because I had that wrong. Woohoo! So yeah, over the road refrigerated. Orientation and everything is in Fort Dodge, Iowa. So we would get you either a rental car or a flight. If you prefer a flight, we can do that. Get you home and or get you to Fort Dodge, excuse me. We do like to do your physical. If you need a new physical, if you have a current physical that's good for at least another 6 months, we'll probably use that one. Just send over the long form. Let's get that signed off. And then, of course, we need to do the drug tests, both the hair follicle and the urinalysis. We do both of those. And then the online orientation. So online orientation is basically a series of, or modules. You've got video followed by a few questions. Sometimes it's an image followed by a few questions, and then it just, until you finish that. So that'll take a little bit of time. We do pay you $100 for completing the online orientation, your physical and drug tests before coming to orientation and starting on Monday. So make sure that you have all of that done before you arrive in Fort Dodge. It'll make life easier. If you don't have it done, you won't get to start that week, and it'll push you out another week. But that's $100 for completing that. We do pay $500 for completing orientation, so you'd get that as well. Orientation starts on Monday. As an experienced driver, you're done usually Wednesday, Thursday morning, and then at that point you're dispatched out. We walk through the truck with you. We go through a lot of company policies and procedures. You've got your driving test. I mean, all of this is going on during orientation. And what else can I tell you about? You'll meet several different management levels, safety, HR. You'll talk about some of the benefits. You'll meet with your driver manager, and recruiting. All of that will be, all right, thanks, Asim. All of that will be part of orientation for you. You'll speak to the communication department, kind of give you an idea of how we give you updates. We have a weekly newsletter. We have our social media platforms, multiple. Of course, we do these Q&As every week here on our YouTube as well as our Facebook channel. And then we also have a number of, we've got the messages over the TransFlow app so that you'll be able to communicate with your driver manager as well. So we try to keep you in the loop as much as possible so that there's no, so you're in the loop, so you know what's going on. I mean, it's important to all kind of be on the same page, right? So that we've got the communication. We also have, like I think I said, safety. You'll be meeting with your safety. You'll be talking about your fuel routing, going over a lot of those details. The training department is fantastic. And so they're very thorough, and they'll take the time to answer your questions. And then from there, you'll go into speaking with the maintenance department, and the maintenance department's going to walk through all of our amenities with you. And they're going to talk about how to run the APU unit or the inverter and just make life a little bit easier. Because sometimes you got to do some troubleshooting on those, and they'll help you. But they've also created a few resources for us on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, that will help you through a lot of that. So thank goodness for that. Asim, no, Washington, D.C. is not one of the areas that we currently have availability out of. Nope. Out of the east, for flatbed, figure I-95, we don't really go a whole lot east of I-95. Up and down the Midwest for pretty much either division is usually pretty good for us. Most of those areas. But orientation, once you've completed that, then you're dispatched out and get going. Get to work, right? Your rate of pay per mile is going to be based off your experience level. So if you're going into the flatbed division and you're brand new, you're going to have a 5-day orientation instead of a 3-day orientation. And if it's a 5-day orientation, it's going to be followed by 2 to 3 weeks with a trainer. So if you're with a trainer, you're going to get paid $100 a day, which, that's $700 a week. And that's after the week of orientation. Once you're done with that, then you'll get your cents per mile or your minimum pay. The minimum pay is going to be based off of the division that you're running. So our minimum pay for most of our divisions is $1,000 a week. We do have our Midwest flatbed, a lot of shorter runs in that one. That one does have a minimum pay of $14.50. But your rate of pay per mile is based on your experience level, and of course the miles that you run. If your rate of pay and the miles you run exceed that minimum, you'll get the better of the two. The qualifications for the minimum pay itself are pretty basic. You need to be available for dispatch at least 5 days out of the week. No load refusals, no driver service failures, so no late loads, no CSA violations, no preventable accidents, And get your paperwork in on time. That's the final one. And paperwork is due on Tuesday night. So make sure you can do that. Yeah. Can you tell me about the area which you're hiring? Assume if you could tell me where you're going, I can tell you more about what we have available. Like, for instance, if you can tell me where you're moving to, that would help me answer that for you. Keep in mind, Asim, in your situation, we do require that you have at least had a U.S. driver's license for 3 years. You do need to have a U.S. driver's license for 3 years. You don't have to have your CDL for 3 years, but a U.S. driver's license, yes. And then, of course, meeting the qualifications for the CDL. Okay. Florida is an area that we hire out of for our flatbed division, especially around the Jacksonville area. That would get you home about every other weekend, sometimes a little bit longer out because of freight. Mm-hmm. So do keep that in mind. I know we visited about that before. I just want to make sure that that part hasn't changed for us. Not currently, at least. Okay. And then, like I said before, flatbed, or I guess orientation, if you're going into flatbed and you don't have any flatbed experience, you've got driving experience but no flatbed, then we'll have you go through securement and TARP training as well. So, okay, yes. So we'll go through all of that. As far as the minimum pay, we talked about those qualifications. If your rate of pay per mile and the miles you run exceed your minimum, you'll get the better of the two. And that is usually what pays out. There's instances that the minimum pay does apply, but that's why it's there. It's that safety mechanism. So the other thing is, keep in mind with these floods that are going right now, that minimum pay, it's a weather thing. So sometimes that's going to kick in at that point where you might not be able to move. You're available for dispatch as far as you're concerned, as any effort that you can make, but some of it's out of your control. That the first time we were seeing those minimum pays when we first implemented it, was it in 2019? We've offered minimum pay for a few years now. I mean, it's been nice to have that safety net for people. But the first time the wind was horrible, and you're probably like, wind? But it was so bad, they shut down most of the Midwest. I mean, and not just us. So it was nice to know that we had a company that was putting our driver's safety before anything else at that point, and they did. Yeah. So, Poplar says, I'm potentially moving to Monroe, Michigan, if that happens to be out of your hiring area. Let me double check. Monroe, Michigan. Okay, let me double check the zip code on that one. That is 48161, and you are, so you're same division available to you. I mean, you have the option of getting home out of Michigan there. We can get you home a little bit more often, about 11 days instead of every 3 weeks. But yes, Poplars, we can hire out of Monroe, Michigan for our refrigerated divisions. So again, with the rate of pay per mile, it's all going to be based off of how much experience you have. If you're brand new to the industry, you're looking at 52 cents a mile in the flatbed, or in the refrigerated, sorry. And if you've got maybe 2-3 years of experience, just kind of giving you a ballpark of, where you would start. But say you have like two years of experience or so, you're going to be starting at 57 cents a mile. You do get a raise after 90 days and every year on your anniversary. So you've got that. The cap right now is at 70 cents a mile. If you have over 10 years of experience, you'd be at 65 cents a mile to get started. Poplar says 3 years. 3 years would set you at 59 cents. So 59 cents a mile. 10 cents per mile is per diem. So you're not taxed on 10 cents a mile. And then, which obviously gets you a little bit more take home each week. But yeah, with 3 years, it's 59. After 90 days, you'll be at 60. And then annually, you'll be increasing a penny per mile. So speaking of increases, let's talk about bonuses. Bonuses like I said, we have those monthly bonuses available on usually the third pay period of the month following when you ran it. So they pay out this week, those bonuses. On average, I think company side it was about $240, excuse me. But on the owner operator side, it was a little over $300, the average payout for this month. And it's a little bit different, depending on miles and earning safety. That's obviously those payouts can change a little bit, but over 60,000 paid out for this last month. So for the month of May. So that's part of it. Now, we talked about increases being after 90 days and annually, but the cap is at 70 cents a mile. So if you're starting in the flatbed division, you'd be capped out if you had over 15 years of experience. So if you had 20 years of experience in flatbed, and you're in the flatbed, you'd be at 70 cents a mile to start. Mm-hmm. Poplar says, also I like to run and I don't need to be home every 2 weeks. Perfect. That's good. Now, one thing miles obviously are a little bit, they're not as high as they used to be in the industry. We are definitely working to amend that. We have an amazing sales team that is working overtime there for you. So, and working with our customer service department and operations to make life easier for you. And that's probably why you're seeing the increase in the bonuses the last couple of months as well, are those increases. Love to see it. What else can I tell you for benefits? Oh, for vacation, 1 week after 1 year, 1 week after 1 year, 2 weeks after 3 years, and 3 weeks after 7 years. We have implemented, though, within your first after your first 6 months here at Decker, you do get a week of vacation. So it actually goes 1 week after 6 months, 1 week after a year, 2 weeks after 3 years, and 3 weeks after 7. Those are the increases, but again, annually you'll receive vacation. And it's based off of your numbers, not an average. So it's based off of not an everybody average, but a you average for that vacation pay. Okay. I know I'm missing something. What am I missing? Benefits. Blue Cross Blue Shield, 80/20. We have dental and vision available to you. Those all start after 60 days. So when you arrive in Fort Dodge, you complete orientation. Once you've completed, you'll be assigned an ART, or an ambassador, I should say. That ambassador is going to help represent you and support you along the way. Supporting as answering questions, helping you kind of maneuver and remember the processes coming out of orientation. There's a lot of information you guys are going to be given. We get that. You can't retain all of it, but you will know who to get a hold of to get some of your questions answered. So that's what the ambassador is there for. And then from there, the ambassador will remind you, get your paperwork in for your benefits. They'll start after 60 days. At 21 days, start doing that application or that submitting for your benefits. We have a 50% match on the 401k. We have company paid life insurance. We have, like I said, dental, vision, prescription. Our prescription plans are fantastic. There are multiple ones. We have the $0 generic. We have the $0 brand name or specialty. So they're there to offset a lot of those expenses that you might incur. Benefits. Yeah. I know there's more. There's always more for the benefits. We started the Regenix about a year and a half ago, so that's fairly new to us. The Logitech is new, or FedLogic, Logitech. Logitech is a camera brand. Okay, FedLogic. FedLogic is a federal resource. They help to find some of those resources there for you, especially with the expenses of big surgeries that might be coming up. So nice to have that. And then we have the Regenix, that helps if you are trying to contemplate, or if you're contemplating whether or not you need to have a major surgery, But looking at alternatives, the Regenexx can help be an alternative for some of those surgeries, like your spine and elbow and wrist, knee, ankle, what am I missing? Hip, shoulder. Those are all can be addressed, or at least you can discover some of the options through Regenexx. Poplar says, did I hear that right? You all have a prescription card for $0 brand names. Yeah, we have a couple of different prescription plans. We have the $0 generic, which is basically you can go to any pharmacy excluding CVS or Walgreens, but pretty much any other pharmacy, and have $0 generic. Now, then we also have a $0 brand name or $0 specialty. Those are usually through the mail. It's a different prescription plan, but it's not, it's not usually in person. Like, it's not usually at a Walgreens or a CVS, usually, or another pharmacy, like retail pharmacy. You would have to go to, online for that, is what I'm getting at. But yes, $0 brand names. Not all brand names are in there. So if you are on a prescription, you'll want to find out if yours is covered on, and which one it would be covered on. Because sometimes they'll be covered on one, but not the other, and vice versa. So yes, $0 brand name. Stephen was telling me that it was on one of our lives. One of our professional drivers was saying that he saved $1,800 a month on one prescription because it was a brand name. And now he doesn't have to pay that $1,800 a month. It's a house payment, people. That's crazy. Poplar says, and my final question. I haven't been able to drive for the past year due to an injury. I do have a valid DOT physical. Will that be a roadblock to potential hiring me? If you haven't driven for the last year, if you haven't worked for the last year, then yes, that could be a roadblock. However, if you had an injury that prevented you from driving, but you were still working, then you may be okay. A lot of that has to do with, obviously, the physical, as well as the doctor's note giving you permission, like saying that you weren't able to work, but now you've healed. So that would be, it's a case-by-case basis, knowing what the release form states. And obviously, like you said, that you have the DOT physical, and if you were working. So if you were working, I'll give an example, if you were working in an office environment, just non-driving, anything non-driving in the last 12 months, then you should be okay. That's a good question, but that is something that we do take into account. If you haven't, get some experience, whether it's driving or non-driving, get some work history within the last 12 months, and then we can continue on. So yeah, we do look for work history within the last 12 months. So I'm happy to ask the questions. Yeah, I love that you ask. Otherwise, I'm making assumptions on what you might be thinking, right? I'm like, what would you want to know? Yes, excellent. So that brings up another question that I get every now and then is, what's the work I don't have very good work history, or I've been with 3 or 4 jobs in the last couple of years. You know what I'm going to do? Let me pull up our job requirements and actually walk through those with you so that we can just make sure that you meet those hiring standards across the board. So that's for, that's across the board, I should say. So we do require that you're at least 21 years of age. That's the requirement in order to run interstate, and no major moving violations within the last 3 years. So if you have a DOT recordable accident, or no DOT recordable accidents within the last 3 years, but if you had a DOT recordable accident, or if you had a ticket, a major moving violation like a following too close or erratic lane change or speeding 15 over speeding, something like that, that would disqualify you for at least 3 years for us. You do need to be able to read and speak English sufficiently. I mean, be able to actually have a conversation, making sure that you can read all the road signs, that you understand those safety signals, and that you can respond. So the communication for us oftentimes is through the TransFlow, and so you're typing a lot of that. We do obviously, some of our communication is over the phone, so you've got that as well, but you need to be able to speak and read and write English. Poplar says, I've got a solid work history. Awesome. It's just the last specific year. Okay. Yeah, and that might be, for your case, I would speak directly to the recruiter just to be on the safe side, but let me pull up the actual history here. So, I'm in the wrong area. Must obtain a U.S. driver's license or had a U.S. driver's license for at least 3 years before applying. License in the state of residency, and you only have 30 days to transfer, so you want to make sure that you're licensed ahead of time, because that could be, otherwise you're jumping through hoops, so it could be a pain in your butt. We don't work with anything that's occupational or a restricted license. It has to be, so no, that's going to include an SR22 for insurance, so it needs to be a valid Class A CDL. You have to have the right to live and work in the U.S., and of course, you're going to need to pass all of our training requirements. So that's going to be including a driving test when you get to orientation. Let's see. I'm looking for my work history. Employment history. Work history, to include military, for the past 10 years must be supplied by the applicant, and inconsistencies in the work history obviously will be reviewed. But no more than 8 jobs in the last 3 years, that is one of our requirements. Usually we're looking at about 4 or less. And you must have been employed within the last 12 months. If you have a lot of, and this isn't necessarily going to apply to you, Poplars, because you said it's just the last year really, but for somebody who had multiple gaps of employment, that would be a factor as well. You know, that's something that we would look at as well. Of course, no positive drug or alcohol test, no refusals to test while in a DOT environment, safety environment in the last 3 years. With SAP or, what is the other one? RTD testing, that obviously needs to be completed prior to the 3 years. Yep. That's, I think, as far as work history, that's probably the most specific I can give you, you know, to kind of, to lay the way. We have to get the verifications. You know, we have to get employment verifications for the last 3 years. And sometimes that throws people off, but if you've been in the trucking industry for any time, you know that it is the company's due diligence to make sure that they've done everything they could to get those employment verifications, because it includes the drug and alcohol and accident information, those verifications do, in addition to the dates. So if we aren't able to obtain those, then it leaves gaps in your employment, and that's a red flag for DOT. I was going somewhere with that. Oh, if we can't verify it, but you have, like if the company went out of business, unfortunately that happens, and we, you know, there's still some fantastic drivers out there that have ran for companies that have gone out of business, that are looking for positions. In that case, if you can show us W-2s, pay stubs, that helps a lot in the employment verification. And then we will do our due diligence to get the rest of the verification, but that will help for sure. Poplar says, I'm feeling confident. Worst comes to worst, I can go back to a starter for a bit. Yeah, or just, like I said, just get a little bit of it, work experience, not necessarily driving in your case, but yeah. but you're right. Good. Good. No more than, and did I say this? No more than two, um, no more than two tickets in the last 3 years. No more than one in the last year. So if you had two tickets, even if they're just 5 over speeding tickets in the last 12 months, we'll have to wait till one of those comes outside of the 12-month period. So we can work with 2 tickets in the last 3 years, but they can't be anything major. Any major would automatically disqualify you until those are outside of the 3-year period. Violations for out of service would be one of them. Operating with a commercial vehicle, or operating a commercial vehicle with more than one CDL is another one. With CDL restrictions, operating with CDL restrictions, another big one. Excessive speeding. Sorry, I can't talk. That's another one. So a 15 over ticket. Speeding in construction zones, work zones. You guys, especially this time of year, please be well aware of the work zones. If you have a handheld device, that has to be 3 years old. Let me rephrase that. If you use a handheld device, or have an inattentive driving ticket, that would have to be 3 years old. There we go. Obviously, we allow the one touch or even the headset. The headset, by the way, if you are using the headset, they cannot cover both ears. You can only have it in one. If you're using your phone that way. But of course, we've got Bluetooth. Following too close, that would disqualify you for 3 years as well. Erratic, improper lane change. Did I miss anything? 5 years. What would disqualify us for 5 years? That would be driving a commercial vehicle without a CDL, a reckless, a careless. Those would have to be at least 5 years old. That's including any warning. So if you got pulled over for it and you weren't ticketed on your CSA, on the PSP report, then it doesn't matter. It's still, as far as the insurance is concerned, it is the same because it still shows up on your CSA report. So reckless, careless, eluding police, leaving a scene of an accident, those are all majors that have to be at least 5 years old. Basically, if you used a commercial vehicle to commit a felony, that's going to get you 5-7 minimum before we'd be able to move forward. Yeah. No suspensions within the last 3 years. Yep. Did I answer any other questions as far as qualifications? Yeah, no possession in the last 3 years, in or out of the, drug possessions, anything like that, last 7 years in a commercial vehicle. So if you had a possession in a vehicle, if it was in a personal vehicle, it'd have to be at least 3 years old. If it was in a commercial, it'd have to be at least 5 years old. If it was a drug possession, transporting a felony, misdemeanor, anything like that, that'd have to be at least 7 years old. Kind of gives you an idea of the qualifications. Elite factor, right? Okay. Excellent. Like I said, feel free to ask. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about, though, is some of the equipment that we have. The amenities, APUs, refrigerators, microwaves, CB units. Yeah, we have CB units in the truck. We have 22-inch television. It does come with the Epic View Plus. Yay! The other week where I was like, all right, got to eat my words. We haven't started installing the Epic View Plus. And the moment I said that, we started installing them. I should have said it sooner, right? It's because we were waiting on some of the equipment. But Epic View Plus, when you go in for an A or B service, we are hopefully going to be able to upgrade you to Epic View Plus, each one. If for some reason you're coming in for an A or B service and we've run out because we've been upgrading them, because we've been doing it for the last week. If we run out, then we'll get you that next time around, but or even sooner. But yes, that's the process right now, is when you come in for an ARB service, we are upgrading you to the Epic View Plus. That is for our company drivers. I don't have an update as far as the owner-operator lease purchase right now. As far as I am aware, they will stay with the Epic View. Okay, so the difference. Epic View Satellite has the white dome on the back of the truck, and Epic View Plus is streaming. So that's the difference. It's a little bit different. Trying to think, what do I have here that I can use as an example? Really, the Epic View Plus, it's about this big, about a little less than 10 inches in size, and it's a receiver, okay, like a flat box, kind of looks like a Amazon Fire Stick, or that kind of thing, Roku. So that's the receiver for the Epic View Plus to stream, whereas the Epic View Satellite has the dome on the back, and then of course it has the receiver inside as well. I might be using the wrong word as far as receiver, but that's, in my mind, that's what it is, okay? But with the Epic View Plus, you'll have free Wi-Fi, and you didn't have that through Epic View. We did have it through our TransFlow app, but it was data, and it's just not as fast. And we've had several people tell us that the streaming Wi-Fi is significantly faster, and they really appreciate that. So that was a big reason as well, because I know a lot of people needed faster service. It's a 5G. It's a Verizon 5G, I believe. So yes, that's the Epic View Plus. Satellite radio is available. You would have to have the subscription, whereas the satellite, well, not satellite, but the streaming, the TV, the Epic View, we cover that for all of our company drivers. Decker covers that expense for Epic View Plus. Epic View or Epic View Plus for the company drivers. Refrigerators, double bunk trucks. Most of our trucks are the 579 Pete's, but we do have some 740 Volvos for flatbed, 780 and 860 for refrigerated divisions. And then, and then a few Freightliner Cascadia Evolutions. The Freightliners have the Opta idle instead of the APU. So there's a little difference there. Okay. Air ride seats up front. We do have a passenger policy, ages 10 and up. It's $25 a month. And the dog policy, it's a $500 deposit, non-aggressive breed, up to 80 pounds, 60 pounds combined. Yeah. But non-aggressive breed. For the dog policy, what you'd need is, obviously you're talking to safety about it, right? You're getting the approval from safety. You're talking to if you're current with Decker, you'll talk with the safety department. If you are coming aboard to Decker and trying to make those arrangements, then you'll need to speak to your recruiter. They'll need the dog's shot records, a picture of the dog. You'll need to get seat covers as well, and your dog needs to be on a leash. I was like, what else am I missing? I knew there was something else. But yeah, your dog will need to be on a leash at locations. Now, in Fort Dodge, we have the dog washing station. So if you're getting your truck washed, you can also get your dog washed. You have to do it yourself, though. And as far as designated areas, I know most of our locations have the designated areas as well for walking and breaks and stuff like that for your dog. Yeah. If you have more questions about it, another opportunity to talk to your recruiter, 877-433-2537. All right, you guys, you probably had enough of me today, but I do appreciate you taking the time to hop on. I thank you for your questions, and I look forward to working with you here shortly. But yes, if you have more questions, just hit us up, 877-433-2537. And you guys, at the beginning, we talked about the weather. We talked about how a lot of you guys are preparing or trying to deal with some of that flooding. Please do a proper pre-trip, know what you're getting into, and if you need to be rerouted, talk to your driver manager to get that taken care of. We don't want you getting into a situation that puts you in danger. So yeah, please be aware of that. For local channels, you can do a scan on your TV and it'll help you, it'll give you some of those updates as well to help out. Okay, awesome. You guys have a great rest of your week. We will talk to you next week. Don't forget, the next week is the 1st of July, so we'll be doing our referral bonus on our Facebook page next Monday. Please join us then. That's a chance to win $1,000 for those who referred anybody within this second quarter who hired on. And Monday we also do our Q&As at 4 p.m. So we look forward to visiting with you then. You guys have an awesome rest of your day, and we will see you next week.